Hello, hello, and welcome to the Epilogue of Chronicles. Here's the bottom of the face. Yeah, today is a chance for us to talk about what the hell these little dudes are doing after the campaign. Summarize the campaign. The critters set out from Chimvaya on a boat, found themselves on the Isle of Karak, which is a small island to the southwest of the archipelago. They explored, and the jungle a fairly dangerous place. Avoided some Sahuagin, stole some shit, wandered along the beach, met some desert peeps, said their first few words, Akazam Samas to you too. Went to a city, grabbed a football, played some games with some kids, learned some of the language, found themselves put in an orphanage because people thought they were lost kids. Then they realized they weren't lost, they weren't kids, but they stayed at the orphanage for a while anyway. Then they set out on behalf of their orphanage caretaker to see where they could find his sister. They crossed the land, they dealt with some Sahuagin. They went into a Yuan-Ti temple, which had nothing to do with anything other than wanting some treasure and seeing what was there. Our duck attuned to an axe, which was a terrible idea. So they seeked help with the desert people and got unattuned to said cursed axe. They popped back to Sakanta to pick up some wares, braces of defense, belts of dragon hidedness, armor for a badger. Then they went back across the world. They had a fight with some assassinating vines, and they entered the tomb of Chewon Gahol. Name way more sexual than it did last time. Chewing con hole. It sounded like chewing the hole when I said it. Chewing con hole. Yeah, well, the sister was nowhere to be found. We assume she's one of the corpses that you guys killed, chopped up. And then Kuba couldn't keep his mitts off the treasure, opened a sarcophagus and stole a jade monkey, I think, was it? Jade monkey you nicked? The sarcophagus?
No, it was a golden one because I already had.
Yeah. Oh, then it'd be a golden serpent statue. Okay, cool. I like
that. Yes, it was.
So got that, and that pissed off the ghost of Chuan Kankahol because you also took the idol, which meant that you guys got a rampaging chase scene with it. What the fuck was that noise? Did any of you hear that?
No.
Nope.
It's my end.
Weird.
It sounded like my whole computer just loaded.
Was it Roll20? Are you the only person on Roll20?
No,
I'm on Roll20. I'm on Roll20.
Okay.
Everyone's here.
I like the silence.
What the fuck that was? All right, cool. As long as nobody else can hear it, we just hope it doesn't happen again.
Yeah.
Where was I? Yes, they took the idol, and that led to a sick chase scene with a large golem and its 4 little statue dudes, and lots of hazards leaping out of them through the way until they found their way into the water and glided across it, or swam across it, or boated across it on the back of a shield, or just waded, depending on who we're looking at. And they made their way out. That's really where the campaign came to an end. You guys had made peace with the land, made peace with you. You'd learned the language. You'd got the respect of at least one dude who runs an orphanage. Got some riches. And found a little place in Zakantha. And I suppose at that point, I will come to you one by one and just say, what are you guys going to do afterwards? You don't have to remain as a party if you... I would imagine at least for the near future. Rico, what would Diego do?
I was hoping you wouldn't start with me.
Everybody was hoping I wouldn't start with them.
I think Diego. I mean, like, Diego doesn't have much to go back to in Chimvaya, right? Like, he doesn't really care for his brothers very much, and I think he really enjoyed sort of adventuring, meeting new people, learning new things. So, I mean, for sure, Diego would not go back. He would likely continue exploring the world of Mesria.
Okay, yeah, the whole world of Mesria.
Well, not just. I mean, like, I feel like Karak
at least the archipelago.
Yeah, exactly. Extend that a little further. He would definitely implore the others to tag along. But yeah, I think as long as he survives, he'll be traveling the lands.
I like that. Upon traveling the lands, obviously there aren't many Vulpin in the world. There are none that are not in Chimvaya. Would you return home to take a wife and bring her with you somewhere to produce other Vulpin in the lands of Mazraya, or would you live out a solitary life?
I would look for. I would
find
maybe
the nearest thing.
Vulpine looking things to screw and see what happens from there.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
A little interspecies
you got no
mingling.
results from a fox. So the next closest thing was an odd-looking half-elf with hairy arms. No, I definitely think there are. I don't think we have anthropomorph in the Mazraya world.
I was just going to say, is that how they come to be?
Well, we don't yet until Diego got involved.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I think the thing with a lot of humanoid species in the fantasy world, in my mind, is that there is nothing preventing a half elf and an orc having a child. There's nothing to prevent a halfling and a three cream giving it a solid go. But a lot of the time,
that's sort of why some people are having a problem with the new D&D's like species sort of nomenclature, where it's like if you could have a half whatever, then there aren't really different species, right? Like,
no, they're just human. I mean, I think maybe some of them are like a three cream might be their own
interspecies
thing.
sex is not basically possible, or procreation anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
As far as we know.
So you go around and you create some half this and half that. And I think that's fine, and I think that's cool. It will be Vulpin very, very unique and interesting.
I'm like a sailor without the ship.
Yeah.
Right? Going around a port, banging fox-like creatures.
You do have a ship, though. Which
learning
is good.
magic.
Yeah.
But I would need these guys to help me sail it. So unless we all set off, I would probably be a stowaway. I'd probably be. He'd probably be a stowaway for a little bit. I have a lot of money. No,
you do have a lot of money.
A decent amount of coins, so.
Enough for a liege of slaves. But one last question I have in terms of the way that your life progresses. What sort of shape does Diego's later level magic take? What are his sort of unique and interesting thoughts? And I'm not going to ask you to answer that right now because you're going to need a minute to have a little look. But I'm going to come back round and I will ask that question, obviously not to do with magic. But at level 10 per se, what is his signature shit?
Right off the bat, I mean, so I am an enchantment wizard.
Yes.
So most of the stuff is
to do with double checking that.
I am. I'm just checking the enchantment wizards.
Yeah, no, that's what I said. I'll leave you to have a real think over the next 3 people.
I mean, well, so what I was gonna say is that I think the meeting with Sokcha, this mysterious merchant, would sort of like. Piqued Diego's interest, and I think that, considering his skills in enchantment, in his older age, like after he had, I guess, settled down and stopped moving around so much, he might actually become some sort of merchant of magical, purveyor of magical goods.
Things he collected on the way.
Things that I've collected on the way, exactly, that I don't need or use. Yeah.
Josh, what's Coop up to? He's still exploring.
I was hoping you would have come to me next. Yeah, I mean, I think for good old Coops, I mean, we set off trying to find that human, so I think he would keep, going to try and find him. I don't know what he wants to do once he's found him, but
you're going to continue to seek
Kef, yeah. I mean, I think his main ambition in life is to continue exploring and finding treasure and artifacts and stuff like that, and using his cuteness to get good deals on things and for people to lower prices, and so he'd probably stay with, if Diego's going around traveling, he'd probably just stay with him and make sure to lock his bedroom door in case he gets thinks that Coop's looking a bit fox-like.
Cooper, just in case been away for a long time without seeing anyone.
The seas are a lonely place.
Just to let you know, for all of you that are on Roll20, so everybody other than Josh, Kef is in Marigal. Marigal is one of the biggest cities in the entirety of the archipelago. It is on Endreach. It was a small journey from Zerkanter. It's probably the next port you would go to. And it is rife with pirates, travelers, sea. It's one of the biggest ports in the entire world.
Marigal, I see it.
Yeah. Yeah, just over here, and
Not bad at all,
it spans a huge amount of land. So it would have taken you a long time to find Kef in Marigal, especially as he'd have to be in port at the time.
Of course.
But that is where you would find him, and then onwards from there, traveling, seeking magical items.
Yeah, I think so. And I kind of imagine him very silly looking, but like just continuously wearing like elegant things. Like I imagine him like in some kind of tomb with a human-sized dress on that's like trailing behind that he's like tripping over.
Tuxedo, wedding dress.
Yeah, with like a crown, and he's just like waddling along, like setting off traps everywhere.
Josh, I always pictured Cooper wearing like Princess Peach's outfit.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
very
just what I think of in my
with a
head.
parasol.
Yeah,
That's how he flies now.
And huge shoulder pads and a big bow tie.
yeah, like the big.
Yeah, just a very mixed match of
sleeves
lots
that he
of
can pull,
different things. Exactly. Yeah.
And his one dagger.
Yes, and his single dagger that he keeps in his purse.
Oh no, you have 2 or 3
have
different
multiple.
powerful daggers. You only use one at a time, but it's like, which dagger for today, right?
Yes,
That's like
yeah,
delicacies,
probably
I like
something like that.
Whichever one matches his outfit.
And would he
Exactly.
would he at any point return to Chimvaya?
I don't think so. Which sounds sad if none of us are going back. I hope someone goes back.
Oh, well, I imagine that at least one person.
I think
so.
probably. I think he'd probably go back at the end of his life, and just sit around eating and drinking and just sitting in his suits and dresses and all of that stuff. Yeah.
Jack, Aldebrest up to.
Boulderbrest will reluctantly not join the others in their quest,
Big sats.
and will stay in Zacantha for a bit. He
Interesting.
finally understood that what those collection of thin bark things were. They were books, and understood that you learn to read from these books. And although I don't understand the information and knowledge, or Boulderbrest doesn't understand the information and knowledge contained within those books, he understands that others do. So with the collection of his share of the treasure, he would lay low from the pirates, collect as many books as possible on, sort of architecture, metallurgy, all the things that he thinks makes these people, sort of larger than life in a way, and do what his quest was to do, which is garner every possible, bit of advantage and sort of, knowledge, take it back home and prepare for the big wide world to know of Chimvaya. And to give the animals, to give the critters as big of an advantage to that being the thing as possible. You know what I mean?
Do you think he would settle down?
I think he would have a hard time, but I think he would. I think he would leave the adventuring life.
Wife and
But I think he would struggle
11
with it.
children.
Yeah, I think he's like just less in his brother's shadow, and sort of like, I've
And well
done stuff
respected
now,
within well respected.
I don't need to prove myself anymore. I feel like I have, like he feels like he has sort of proven himself without the recognition from others. So he has that level of self-confidence. And so, like, sort of that self-esteem boost that others see that.
And Joe, what Munch?
Yeah, so Munch definitely does not ever go back. So the idea of like you know, he had all these nuts ready for whatever, but never uses them, right? Like the Chimvaya becomes that writ large, where it's like, oh, I can go back there whenever I need to. Like, well, that's there for the future. That's not now. Don't worry about that.
Chimvaya is your nut. I love that.
Yeah, but like he just goes like as much around as possible. Right, maybe that means sticking with these other two if they're heading around from port to port.
You and Diego can both go and spread your nuts. In such different manners.
Yes, completely. But yeah, like so like places become like new different snacks, right? We're like, I'm just gonna eat this instead of dipping into my stores, right? The places become the way. I'm gonna go here instead of worrying about going back. I'll go here. I'll go here. I'll go here. And for like a period of years, it continues in that like it's like a tick kind of way, right? You know what I mean? Where it's like he's screwy, but like slowly over a course of time, he becomes it's more of a conscious choice of like, no, I don't need to. Like, I have found something useful to do. And that would be the goal, not just to go from place to place. Over time, it becomes like, well, what is there something that's important to do here? And I never really need to go back and show that I did anything important, because who cares at this point? Like, eventually he just realizes that he can decide that for himself.
And those something importance, would they be things for others, to help others, or would they be things that he feels need doing? Like,
I think largely just because of how we got our start, it would be helping people stuff for the most part. But yeah, it's hard for me to decide what he would see. It depends, right? You know, I mean, it depends where things what would come up. Like,
but I mean, you wouldn't necessarily try and, you know, like turn the world to nature, or, you know, do like some deeply self-minded quest. It would much more be.
Yeah, I don't think he has any overarching
this person's
goal.
Lost their daughter. Let's go look for her. Sort of stuff. I like that. Rico, I'll come back to you and ask, what does a level 10 Diego look like in terms of his combat prowess, his magic?
That's a good question, actually. I mean, I like this idea that Diego was basically going around finding spells, right? Like we sort of set out on this journey of discovery. So I don't know that I would sort of pigeonhole myself into solely enchantment style spells. Like I think that he would be a very much like your typical wizard with a large variant of. But yeah, like just collecting spells would be something interesting to him because.
Sure, but then what does he prepare? I guess is what I'm asking. I know you'd write a lot in, but. What do you think might be his bread and butter at level 10? Is he charming people? Is he controlling people? Is he raising the dead? You know, I don't know what Diego does. What do you think Diego would get up to?
Well, let's have a look. See, I don't think that I ever made it so high. I mean, like, Torin only ever got to 5th level spells, and I barely cast spells with him. Let's have a look. Yeah, so I mean, like thematically, spells that are sort of like mental in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
So like Mind Spike, definitely probably a big one. Mislead, turning invisible. Yeah, so I never had the opportunity to do it, but built into the Vulpin race is an ability that allows you to cast the spell. Oh God, what's it called? A beguiling ambush? Something ambush?
Yeah.
What is it called? Ambush prey. I didn't even know it was a fucking spell. No, but you basically turn invisible until you make an attack. Which is kind of like invisibility, but you can't move. Which doesn't really matter for a wizard.
No, not at all.
Usually. Right?
Sort of, so yeah. Dipping in and out
of
vision.
I mean, like, this idea of like having these invisibility spells, greater invisibility, shit like that. I mean, certainly things to also, if Munch and Cooper were coming along, things that help them, you know, turning Cooper invisible, enhancing Munch's strength, or fucking enlarging him and letting him smash people with a giant stick, or breathing fire like an actual adult dragon would be sick, right?
Yeah, I love the idea of this sort of invisible mind controller, you know, and even in the way that you're aiding your allies, right? You're just this unseen force manipulating the way the battle seems.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Hold monster, hold person, stuff like that.
Is Cooper still just skulking about stabbing people?
So level 9 is when I can like start charming people. So it's kind of like how I said before, like he would just
You can charm
be
people?
using.
Why can you do that?
Yeah, I'm a swashbuckler.
That's a
Oh,
thing.
yes, that's
Rogue,
right.
they charm people?
At level, yeah, they're all about being charismatic and also stabby.
Huh.
So yeah, I mean, yeah, he would just use his charm to like get good deals on prices and stuff, or better rewards for quests, and yeah, just dungeon delving really.
What about Munch? Does he ever realize he's not really doing magic?
Yeah, I don't know. I think he might realize enough to start doing actual magic, right? Especially because we don't actually have to play this, right? Like what I would want to do with him,
so
it wouldn't
cool.
be very, it wouldn't be very mechanically sensible. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not sure I would do it if we were really playing it, just because it would be pretty suboptimal with Monk already requiring so much. But but like for instance, I mean, we're already at what? We're at 4th level, I think.
Yeah.
Yes.
So at 6, the dragon subclass thing he gets is flight, which I don't care about at all, and he doesn't really care about at all. He already leaps like hundreds of feet through the air.
Yeah.
So like I might almost very quickly stab off into other areas, but it would be to intentionally try to keep up the same style, right? Of like I'm in the mix, blasting people this way, blasting people that way. That was always kind of the goal. I'm not sure that like meshed with the personality ended up making for him perfectly, but that's still where I would want to, where he would want to go with it.
It's almost like sort of evocation-y stuff.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, wisdom it would be, if we were looking at it mechanically.
Oh, sure. I just mean like in terms of you wouldn't be doing
yeah.
like this subtle mindy magic. You're doing puffs of flame and bolts of acid.
Right. It would continue to be that stuff for sure.
Yeah, the Gish is a hard thing to do anyway, and then doing it with Monk is pretty impossible. And I love that vision of it. Like, he doesn't have to be optimal, as if he's enjoying it and he feels cool. I guess I will come to you, Jack, and say, obviously there is an element of protecting the land, and I will tell you at this point that over the next 20 years or so, Chimvaya is visited by humans. First of all, sages and explorers looking to understand or to put Chimvaya on a map. And then later, people looking to under the treasure of Chimvaya. And I'm assuming that Boulderbreast would stand at the forefront in defending Chimvaya.
We'll be ready.
Oh yeah. What does he look like as a leveled up, a level 10 defender of Chimvaya? Is he still swinging his mace of smiting?
Yeah, that's just like the mace of smiting is like his
sticks.
icon.
Like
yeah, right. I mean, same with the shield, and I think the whole idea of like an army marches on its stomach is very important to him. I also think that before it gets in sort of partly plundered, or at least attempted to, they do make with like he does make trips on the boat back to Zacantha to do little bits of trading here and there, keep in touch.
I love that. Bring weapons.
You know
back,
what I mean?
Critters?
Yeah, bring weapons back and stuff like like as sort of just does whatever he can in order to prepare them just in case, because you never know. And so when it does finally hit, it's like full general mode. Like spears and shields and like the idea of like booby traps and all sort of obstacles and stuff like that. Like I think they would fight tooth and nail to the death, to protect their homeland.
And indeed,
tooth and claw.
They may have
tooth and claw.
Toothy and claw. More on that later. over the years, as I said, 10, 20 years, first of all, it's a single explorer, sage. You know, the cousin of a friend of Zanru who has heard about it and told the tale, and sort of, you know, some other guy that Kef talked to, that he brought a plant to in Madrigal. Over time, these different people visit Chimvaya, and I think at first are maybe accepted with a small amount of curiosity and welcome. Never were the folk of Chimvaya a particularly violent or aggressive folk, even when aware of the dangers to their land. But it wasn't all that long before a small group of pirates to the shore. And the biggest bit of trouble for the critters was they chopped down a few trees to light some fires and boats, but didn't replant. And, you know, they weren't sustaining in the way they cared for the land. And began to live lavishly on the shores of Chimvaya. And after a while, the critters banded together to send them packing, hoping that would, you know, dispel the aggression on the land. But instead, a few years later, a fleet of pirates came to savage them. They didn't find it so easy. Not only did critters themselves, Jack said, you know, lay traps and different tricks and to keep them at bay, make the battle difficult, but the land itself fought back against them. You know, the tree bent its boughs and struck at them. They found the food poisonous to their tastes. The land was treacherous to walk on. Roots and vines rose up to bind their legs. Storms pushed them out of port. And the World Tree made its wishes known in the dreams of the critters. They could leave. If they did leave, they would be able to return. But the veil of Chimvaya would once more be lowered. The World Tree had once raised that veil to allow one Kef Kellahan to visit on through to Chimvaya. But forevermore after that, though many folks knew of the tales of this land to the west, and indeed many critters that had gone out, and there were many, many critters that went and adventured around the land, mostly mouse folk, Arangon and Owlin, the most adventurous of the groups, but small packs of other critters went out traveling and came back occasionally, and told their tales of their land, with their homeland that they came from, but no one without the express permission and, you know, of a critter actually taking them back there could find this land. The veils of the ocean, strange cloud patterns and swirling mists led every boat astray. 100 years later, Chimvaya was no longer on the maps. Again, World Tree deciding that though its people could venture forth and explore, the world couldn't be trusted with so perfect. Remain in the hands of the critters forevermore. Or at least 150 years or so. We don't know much past there, as we haven't adventured past that point. But as our critters set out across the way, and indeed many others go, and, you know, small communities would raise up. There was a fair community of turkey like Gallus that made their small community in the face of Torm, the northeast of Goldtown, far across the archipelago. A fairly large group of mousefolk found their way to Kalan, to northwest Kalan, and opened some fantastic restaurants. Many other small communities of critters would find their way in the world. Fire became much a mystery. And as you guys grow old, live your excited lives, I'd like to reflect back on the campaign for just a few minutes. And I'll start with Joe this time and just ask you, what did you enjoy about the campaign as a whole?
Are we going to say character stuff separately?
Yes.
Or are we going to?
Yeah, I will speak about characters after the point. I will ask you 3 questions. Basically, what did you enjoy about playing your character? What did you enjoy about other people's characters? And what did you enjoy about the campaign? Okay,
sure. So campaign answer then is simply playing adventurers who didn't know the concept of adventuring, right? So you always kind of try to do it at low levels, like, oh, these are regular people. And we did it pretty effectively in Beldania, obviously. But like still there's a little bit more of an idea of like, oh yeah, there are people in the world who have done this sort of thing, so we know that, oh, we want to become that kind of person. But like none of these characters knew what that was. None of us said, oh, let's go do that thing where we roam around and deal with problems or whatever. Like we didn't know what that was, but we were able to still get into doing it, which I thought was a lot of fun.
Yeah, definitely it was a little different, and it was very enjoyable for me to see that side of things as well. Josh, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, I really liked that we were playing in a world where we didn't know the language. It was so, I mean, don't get me wrong, there was plenty of times where it was very annoying and frustrating, but it was also so stupid and so silly, and it was so funny.
When I
never want to do it again. I just want to make that clear. But it was very fun to do it this one time.
When I first mentioned, I think it was either Rico or Jay first mentioned it, and I know that in their head they had a character that was quite charming, and that sort of what face I got was like, oh, what? We're not going to be able to speak to people. I was like, yeah, it'll be fun. Don't worry about it. I'm glad it was fun. We may do it one more time in one very specific place down the line, but only if you guys want to go to Antarctica. Yeah. Jack, what about you? What did you enjoy about the campaign as a whole?
Like, first of all, I just want to say this specific table, what I enjoyed about this specific table, because I'm new, is just the amount of time, like the amount of time we were all in character was phenomenal. It was so good. It was so fun. Never experienced anything like that. Always wanted to, and it just worked out so well. I just want to say thank you. But this specific campaign, I got to say, it was the, like, it was the, I mean, sort of building on top of, like, you know, we weren't like adventurers and stuff like that, but more or less that, like, we didn't really know, like, our classes. Like, we really, like, we were, like, there was so much, like, non-meta type of stuff going on to be like, yeah, well, like, my character's a fighter and they know they fight. Like we all had no concept of violence, not just adventuring. Like, that was really interesting to be like, oh shit, I have to, like, do something to stop this guy from killing me, and I've never had somebody want to kill me before. Yeah, I've had an argument, but, like, no one's
that first combat, right, thing. Where you weren't sure what to do, and, like, you throw a pebble,
that was insane, man.
You claw them. And I was just watching, I was thinking, is run away not an option? You know. But no, it was yeah, I agree with you. I think that the complete lack of concept of violence is it's a wonderful thing, and it was a really enjoyable part of the campaign. Rico, what did you enjoy about the campaign as well?
Yeah, so two things. The first being, you know, having the opportunity to meet Jack and sort of integrate him into the group was great. I mean, he said that he'd never played in a sort of a game where we were in character most of the time, but you could have fooled me, man, because you fit in great. Like, it was awesome.
Thank you very much.
And but yeah, similarly to what Josh was saying, I really enjoyed sort of this idea or this concept that we didn't know the language going into the place. And what I actually liked was that our first encounter was with the Sand People, whose language is actually not even common. And sort of that was the language that we adopted moving forward. And it was just like, it was always Akazam, Samas. People were like, oh, you're Sand People? Like,
yeah.
But I mean, I think that's very evocative of real life, where like the first group of people that you're going to meet, you're going to adopt their language before anything else, right? And their culture. So I thought that was really cool. And yeah, just like the Zerkantha was very cool. I always enjoy like a nice sort of like Arabian Nights-esque theme. So
I'm really glad you met the desert people first. The only reason you did is because somebody, I can't remember who, wanted to look at a cactus. That was it. The only reason you went that way. And it was like, I want to go poke the cactus. I was like, all right, fair enough. And then Cooper tried to climb inside it. But yeah, I really enjoyed.
And they happened to be wizards, and so Diego was drawn to them naturally.
Yeah, right? I really enjoyed the progression of, like, we did a lot of D&D things, but in such an abstract and different way, and I thought that was great fun. So I really enjoyed bending the concepts of exploration, of going to a city, of trading, of all sorts. And I think that, you know, you guys did it a real credit, because I could put a campaign of, oh, you can't speak the language and you don't really know what money is, you don't really know what violence is, in front of many people, and they'd just be like, I don't know what to do. Like, I can't roleplay that.
Yeah, this is silly. This is stupid.
Yeah, well, we're good at silly here at this table. We're very good at silly.
Very much so.
And it was really nice and refreshing, especially after such a dark and serious last 20 sessions or so for Beldania. It was really nice to have something just completely and utterly silly. I'm going to ask you guys to just... this is a hard question, but if you can pick out a moment or two from the campaign that stood out for you that you thought was enjoyable. I'm going to start. Maybe this will start fueling your memories. Firstly, I've obviously mentioned Cooper trying to climb inside a cactus, which is quite fun. But two things that I really enjoyed was the first bit of trading, the first moment of trying to understand gold.
That's what I was immediately thinking of right now, actually.
Well, I'm going to be very vague about it, so you can be more specific if you want. But just the first concept of the shiny things get traded for the items was really interesting. And the fact that you continued to call humans kefs was hilarious. I loved that. Yeah, I'll leave it there. I've got a couple more, but I'll pass it. I'll pass it right. And I'll come first to Jack.
I mean, it's got to be like it's got to be the really weird like interaction that we had with I can't remember his name, but it was the what?
Which guy? Which guy?
Yeah, the magic item guy.
Oh, Sakcha.
Yeah.
Sakcha, because like it was like it was like, oh, we know people now, like, you know what I mean, like we know, and then but then it was like, hold on, this dude's like really different, and it was like, do we approach, like it almost like well, for me it felt like I had to relearn how to interact with someone again, sort of through Boulder Breast, because it was like it was very different. Like this dude was very different to everyone else. And so like, yeah, just the concept of like, okay, I understand people. Oh, there's a dude who I don't understand whatsoever.
Actor is modeled after a character from the Forgotten Realms called Jarlaxle, who Josh has met as Jarlaxle, but I've also recreated this character in multiple different campaigns. You guys met a guy who stole stuff in Beldania and the South Coast in a tavern once, that he bought something off you and then he literally tried to sell it to the table next to you with a bunch of sort of lies and flair. And I keep coming back to this character concept as somebody who is very powerful, but mostly because of all the different magical items they've collected, not because of their own innate abilities, just kind of going through the world to their own tune. So I'm really glad you liked Sakcha. Sorry, Jack, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Carry on.
No, that's all good. And then yeah, it's just got to be that. It's just got to be that first fight. It was just like so much roleplay and so much, and also like, holy shit, we're gonna fucking die on the first fight. Like,
that it set the mark quite dangerously.
The combination of that was like, it was like really exhilarating, really thrilling.
Joe, is there a moment or two that stood out for you?
Sure. Well, I mean, it's kind of a quick one-off, but it's I don't know. It's important, but you can't undersell the excitement or the perfectness of any kind of just setting sail thing, right? Like just the boom. It's such a classic, right? But like, it's just great, and we like have no idea what we're doing. And okay, great, we're gonna have some ability to sort of figure out our way around here, and Cooper dragging behind the boat and all these different kind of things. But just that perfect boom, we're gonna set sail to nothingness. That's always really fun. And then I would say, I don't know, a couple of things, like maybe I guess it was pirates in their little area where we like went to the huts. And then sort of got rebuffed. Yeah. like that, or a couple of other moments like that early there, where it was like, oh, this is a thorough place, right? This little corner that we have stumbled onto has a whole depth to itself. And we're just thrown into this little thing now, instead of being like, well, we're going to learn about everywhere. Like, no, there's like a ton going on right here. That was interesting. And then finally, so I know I'm stealing from people, but like, just the two temples, where it was like, again, because we were people who didn't know about adventuring, to do some stuff that was the most dungeon delving, classic adventure-y, Indiana Jones type stuff was insane, right? Yeah. But awesome.
I do have to credit Jamal for the previous point. I'd really got this idea of you guys traveling around the archipelago. And it was him that was like, well, the first island is going to be the one that makes the impact.
Right.
What is that culture diverse? Is it just one group of people? He just asked a couple of questions. And it really set my mind to thinking, oh, there needs to be a history to this very place. There needs to be a backstory to this very place, so that they can build their views of society based on one island, right? Otherwise, you would have this very narrow and silly view. Right. And then, yeah, so credit to Jamal for once. You did something all right, mate. Josh, a couple of highlights that stood out to you.
So I think my one big highlight that I think of is, we set sail with really nothing, barely had weapons, didn't really have armor or anything like that. And then we find this treasure trove cave where we're like, oh, we've got everything. There's these sparkly coin things, there's weapons, there's armor. Oh no, there's a mimic. And then we're like, oh shit, what else here is a mimic? I think that like, it was
also the first fight with a mimic for you, right? Wasn't it, that you remembered?
For me, yeah. So yeah, that whole sequence was just really, really great. It's definitely something that sticks in my mind about this campaign.
Riffing off of that, the fact that Diego was then wearing the jade bracelet and somebody recognized it really amused me.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, Rico, any moments? They can be as silly as you like.
Stood out for you. Yeah, so most of the ones that I was even thinking of already got said and taken, bastards. But
I didn't want to go first. I didn't want to go last.
I know. But so if I could just touch on 2 points, and then I'll get to a third funny moment. With regards to Sakcha, I think what made that interaction so interesting was that, from a meta point of view, obviously we knew that there was an air of danger around this guy. I mean, he was surrounded by dead bodies. Obviously, he had cut some of them down, or seemingly anyway. But from a character point of view, it was just like, oh, this is just another guy to interact with. Although he looks kind of weird. And so it was just like, it was like sort of a weird tension in the interaction between us and Sakcha that I liked. It was really good, right? It was like tense, but it's like, why is this tense? Like, yeah.
I always got the feeling that it was almost like he was that fish that has the glowing light in front of him.
Exactly.
Like fish. Yeah, it
and
was
then
like
eventually
that.
He was just gonna. I didn't know if he was just gonna like steal all of our stuff and fuck off, right? So
I did consider if he would attempt to steal something, but I then thought that maybe as your critters you would fight him. I thought that was a terrible idea. So yeah, I didn't see anything from you.
And then also going back to James's first point about that first trip out into the city and basically learning about trade and commerce, and like why, like, to us it was just like, why would this like shiny gold coin that's seemingly useless be worth more than, food or sustenance or whatever. But that was really interesting. But one of the moments that stands out to me was I think it was the second dungeon where I think it was the second dungeon where we came across this rickety old string and wood drawbridge. And it was like, oh shit, how are we gonna get across this? And then Boulder was kind of freaking out, and then Joe just jumps across, Josh just flies across, and I was like, all right, I'll help you out, buddy. And then I basically like rode Boulder with like a balloon across,
and then you had to cross back.
Yeah.
That was the best bit about it. I was like, oh, they're doing all these things and they're going to have to go back across it.
And then now it's just like, oh, we're just going to run now. Fuck.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I think that a lot of those points. I do want to give the party, all four of you, credit for being able to make excuses to act normally. You know, to allow yourselves to make breakthroughs, to suddenly work out that X is a thing or Y is a thing. Because if you guys, you know, were role playing, we don't have a clue, it would have been really, really silly and boring because we wouldn't have made any progress. So, to make the connections and the way in which you were so creative about making connections, calling weapons nails, because they were just bigger. Or, you know, making the jump that if you could cut a tree and make firewood out of it and the boat was made of wood, maybe they were taking other resources and building things out of them. There were lots and lots of sort of intuitive leaps that were made, but they were made in a way that really stuck to roleplay and kept it interesting. Josh, no. Yes, Josh, what did you enjoy about playing Cooper? Let's start with you.
So I've played 2 rogues very briefly in Curse of Strahd that both died relatively quickly. And so this was my 3rd attempt to try and play a rogue and play like a good portion of it. And I just really enjoyed the class. I think it's really, really fun. It gives you like a lot to do mechanically. That's nice. You get an action bonus action. You know, depending on the subclass, you can get a really neat reaction too. And so I really liked the class. In terms of Cooper as a character, I mean, I because this was such a short thing, I didn't want to like create a character that was like really in depth or super serious or anything like that. And so playing a silly character was just a lot of fun. You know, it was nice to turn up to a session where I didn't have to be so, you know,
story focused or
exactly.
Or cooperative with your group, like, or
all those boring things, you know.
You know that Sebastian was renowned for.
Sure, but yeah, I think it was just fun playing a kind of silly character that just kind of, you know, did what he wanted,
and he was adorable.
He was very adorable. Yeah. Yes.
Rico, what did you enjoy about playing Diego?
I mean, certainly every new character is an opportunity to put on a silly, stupid voice. And I elected to attempt Antonio Banderas-esque Puss in Boots kind of voice.
It was good.
Which, thank you. So I always loved that. I knew that I wanted to play a wizard because I knew that in the next campaign, spoilers, I would be playing a wizard. So it was nice to sort of
a practice run.
Get a practice run, yeah. I sort of wish that I was able to utilize more spells in combat than magic missile, but I mean, like, I think that'll come with the levels. And obviously we were down a person, and so maybe I would have had the opportunity to flex some other spells, and
I think optimization became quite important.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, it was really fun. I enjoyed playing a wizard, and I'm very much looking forward to playing a high level wizard.
Take a while.
It's really, it's gonna take a while, but it's just
a long while.
Like, because spell choice sort of becomes like whereas most other classes have, you know, built-in abilities, like the rogue has a bunch of shit that they can do. It's just like the wizards don't really get anything other than the fact that they get more spells. And so you really have to look at spells to be like, well, this is going to help us in this way, or will this be helpful to the group, or will it be a detriment to the group? You know what I mean? So it's just interesting. It's like there's more customization in a sense in building the character, because you can go so many avenues. You know, you could build just a blaster and fucking nuke the shit out of enemies. You could build something that sort of controls and repositions the battlefield, shit like that. It's I think I'm going to enjoy it. So
yeah. Jack, what did you enjoy about playing Boulder Burst?
I really made a character that is basically me, who is just like a little bit more, a little bit more of a caricature, you know what I mean? Like, I am very cautious as a person. I like to plan I like to have backup plans for things and stuff like that. But I'm not organized. You know what I mean? Like all that, like all these contradictory things and silly things about me as a person. I just fleshed out as Boulder Breast, and so it was also fun. I played nothing but martials essentially, and then half-casters occasionally. I don't like having spells because I don't like having things. I don't like having resources because I hoard them. Because I'm like, there's always a better time. There's always going to be a better time to use it.
Oh God, we've got a paladin that's never going to smite.
Please smite.
I will smite the big bosses, but I will. You know what I mean?
I'll leave you to determine who the big bosses are.
I know. Right, so.
Well,
if
I can jump in for 1 second, Jack, I will say that back in Valdania when I played a paladin from 1 to 20, and it was like there were times where I would have only a couple spell slots left, and we still obviously had much of the dungeon to go, and I would hoard them on the off chance that I rolled a crit because I knew that it would just amplify. It's basically almost 20 or 16 additional damage on top of that crit. So I know exactly how you feel.
I will tell you that Rico does not hoard resources at all.
I don't though. I fucking not anymore.
There was
I learned this.
There was a wonderful moment where we went into like the sort of near finale dungeon, and we got to, I think it was like this. We'd finished the episode, but we were barely into the dungeon. And I looked at Rico's character sheet to do the GIF, and I was like, "It's got one spell slot." Like literally, our wizard had used a spell slot. Rico had expended everything but one spell slot. Yeah. So I think it's going to be really interesting to see how that goes. But what did you like about sorry, you were carrying on with Boulder Breast.
Yeah, sorry.
No, it's all good. It was interesting to play a supportive class where I was like, look, I need to, like, in order for this subclass to work, I need to have a plus to my con. So I just need to forego strength. Like, it's just, I'm not gonna be doing any damage. I'm not gonna be hitting, and that was the case until I got the sacred belt of hill giant strength. But like, like it was like, okay, well, what can I do because I can't hit anything? Oh well, I'll just run out and dodge. You know what I mean? And just stop someone from attack. I'll just be in the way. Like, you know what I mean? Like like I'm called Boulder Breast. I sound big. I will just be big and in the way.
I definitely like that. And I think that not enough people use the dodge action as in general anyway. But there were 2 moments that stood out to me with Boulder Breast, both of which were taking the dodge action. And one of them was in the last episode where everybody else is like, I take the dash action. I'll just proc 3 opportunity attacks and whatever. But you knew you weren't that fast. So you were like, I'm just going to walk and duck. Just going to hunker down below my shield and just keep on turtling, and I love that. It was so thematic and so cool. Joe, what did you enjoy about playing Munch?
So, I don't know if you know this, but Munch was a squirrel. And that's my favorite thing about him. I freaking love squirrels. Originally, right, I was like on you because I wanted to play Groundhog, and you don't know what groundhogs are because you're from a crazy fantasy land with no groundhogs.
You don't got groundhogs over there?
Yeah.
So anyway,
and we don't even like reference them. Like it's just
sorry, Joe. I don't have squirrels.
Well, that's just horrifying. I have carefully cultivated squirrels at my home over the course of living here for 14 years. I love squirrels more than anything. So to just play a squirrel was just fun, regardless. I also really liked, as always, right? I like finding out what part of playing the character is going to work and it's going to like settle in, right? So I mean, we the next one we've been really working on for a long time, and I know that there's been a few moments where I've gotten a little frustrated with like that because it's like I don't know anymore until I start playing it, and that's fine. I'm not criticizing that. I'm just saying that's what's then nice when you do dive into it, right? So like there were things about this that I left behind, and I don't really mind. Do you know what I mean? And there were other things that I dove in on harder because they worked and they're fun for myself and for everybody. And so like just figuring those things out, just being like weird, nervous, panicky person and upset about things like was fun. And that's what worked. And so it was delightful to lean into that.
Yeah, I have to say I was very confident in Josh and Rico and Jack's choices. Joe came to me and said, I want to play a monk that thinks he's a wizard, and I want to use a voice from a Futurama sorcerer that's like an evil guy.
Well,
I was like,
I kind of didn't do that.
I was like,
voice
Joe,
that way.
you're not selling this to me, like, at all. Oh, by the way, I just want to eat some plants, like, all the time. I was like, all right. And then he turns up to session 1 with a fucking leak. Or whatever it was.
Celery.
Celery, sure, okay.
Celery, yeah.
Cool. And this voice came out that wasn't what you'd sold it to me as.
No,
at all,
no.
The week you'd done it, you had a cold, and I really wasn't sure what was coming. And he was like this serial warrior that buried his nuts to... And in my head, you were the little... You were the... I don't think it is quite a squirrel. I can't think what the creature is. In Ice Age.
Right, like I'm aware of that.
Yeah,
I've never seen any of those, and I watched.
But that was in my head.
It wasn't 100% that, but yeah,
that was in my head, and it just wasn't what we got. And I loved it. I'm gonna take this little moment to wax lyric about your characters before asking you about what you enjoyed about other people's. And I will start with Joe. The depth of the diversity of characteristics you managed to pack in to this character. There was a moment at which you got high. There was a moment at which you got calm emotioned. And there was lots of moments to worry and panic, right? You also had to give yourself an excuse to try something new and do something new in ways that didn't necessarily fit exactly how your character was going to go along. And you had to disagree with various members of the party at various different times. And I thought that the diversity of character that Munch showed, whilst in theory being quite a simple concept, was really enjoyable. I definitely am a big fan of monks hitting things with weapons. I didn't like the idea at the beginning. It ended up fucking brilliant. I've always thought that monks hitting things with weapons kind of takes away from the point of their class, but this was brilliant. This was this magic stick of doom, and fantastic. So I really enjoyed that side of things, and I love that you could jump 110 feet without trying. That was ridiculous. In terms of Boulderbreast, I love this sort of... It's like Mother Bear, almost, right? It was this sort of very much, just stand behind me and I'll be there and I'll stand there for you, but whilst also having no real concept of how combat works, what armor is, or why you shouldn't do any of the things that you're doing. And I think your ability to maintain roleplay throughout combat has really shone through in such a short campaign. It was really enjoyable to see that side of things. I've always wanted a player to do an Aussie accent, and then you turned up with a perfect Aussie accent, so because it's yours, and it was great. I mean, honestly, I know that it seems silly when I had two players who put on voices that were great for their characters. The voice I enjoyed the most was fucking Boulderbreast's. It was just, there were so many things that were just funnier because they were in your accent. And it was great. I mean,
it's a pretty ridiculous accent.
There was just a wonderful combination.
I'll give it, you know what I mean? Like, it is. We got a weird fucking
it's just
accent.
Also some of the words you came out with. I mean, I think you took a whizzle at something or a wazzle at something at one point. Squizzle at something?
Take a squiz. Take a squiz.
Yeah, like, I don't know what was going on.
Fucking rip snorter, mate.
Yes, exactly. Like, there were so many of these. And you lent into that Australianisms, and it lent Boulderbreast this. He was really lovable and cuddly and quite fierce. And he just made me laugh. So thanks for that. In terms of Diego, I totally saw it going a different way. I think Rico quickly realized that Josh was going to steal everything, and that he probably needed to be a bit nicer. And there was a lovely contrast there of this sort of quite scary and almost vicious looking creature. And you know, you had this sort of nasty growl and this temperament, and then you played a beguiling, enchanting wizard. You mentioned magic missiles as a bad thing, like only using magic. I loved it. I loved that was your combat bread and butter, and it was the thing you did to do damage, and then like everything else was to secure yourself in another way. Right? There was a featherfall, there was a levitate, there was a shield, whatever else, and then there was just right that does damage, and now I can focus on the rest of the character, and that was really interesting to me. It was also nice seeing you take such a, I don't know if it's backseat is the right word, because I think Diego was very involved, but there were a lot of times where you sort of let people suss things out and then made the jump as you knowing you were the intelligent character of like, oh, this is where Diego is going to make the breakthrough. I especially remember this when we were on the island in session 1 and he finally worked out that it was a map. And I really liked that little moment. And there were lots of those throughout the campaign. So I just think he did a really good job of doing that, you know, being intelligent but unaware. And waiting and letting the roleplay happen and then taking the back seat and then putting it in. Yeah, it was really enjoyable. What am I going to say about it? I mean, I fucking love this duck. It is, as you may know from my channel, ever so slightly, I quite like them. They are, you know, they're not my favorite animal, actually, but they're close. And the penguin pond sounded ridiculous. But yeah, I fucking love ducks. And Josh came to me with this art, and in my head, I'd really thought of you guys like being humanoid versions of animals, right? And that's it's just a fucking really cute duck. And it was just, the imagery throughout the whole campaign was a mixture of adorable and hilarious.
Well, the reason why I chose that, I have a huge, I don't know why, I just have a huge problem with like races like Owlin and like Aarakocra where they have wings on their back and then have like normal hands. I don't know why, I just find it so weird. So I'd rather just have like the duck be like a cartoon character where his wing is the hand. So that's basically where I was going with it.
But yeah, I love this. It was ridiculous and silly, but also really logical. Like, Cooper was logical in everything he did. Might have been his own logic, not someone else's. But it was, you know, everything you did made sense of the character, and yet just blew my mind. You looked for something inside a football. You know, like, you took a dress from one of the kids' bedrooms. Like, what are you doing? But at the same time, like, wow, that really makes sense of the character. Exactly. So I really enjoyed that mixture of things. And I think Cooper was a sort of necessary character to get you guys to do some of the things you may well not have otherwise done. And I really enjoyed that side of things as the, yeah, sure, I'll give it a go character. And I do think that, Josh, you do deserve some credit for being fearless of the consequences as a role player. You know, when you think your character would do a thing, you don't really care too much as the player whether it's going to get you in trouble. And I'm not saying that you play stupidly, because once in combat, you know, you're very careful to be as effective as possible, but there is something really nice about a character that just go, yeah, I'll poke my head in, I'll have a look, I'll climb inside the monkey's head. And that's great, you know, we need that. So yeah, that's what I liked about you guys. I think you were great. But I will ask, I don't know, Jack, what did you enjoy about other people's characters? And you don't have to go into each one specifically in detail.
No,
like I did.
Okay. It was I liked how we all really took turns into having those breakthrough moments, like really well. Like we didn't get together beforehand, and it's like, all right, well, you're gonna, you know, figure out this, and you're gonna figure out that. But it felt very natural, and just as a collective, and then. I mean, Joe just literally pulling up snacks to snack. It's just like, but not like normal snacks, like a stick of celery, because that's what Munch would have. Like, you know what I mean?
But I didn't do it all the time, to be fair. But
no. But you did it. Like
sitting playing games is the one thing that keeps me from eating. So.
Yeah, but it wasn't like a bag of chips, like, or a bag. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, I mean, like, yeah, just Cooper just being like, look, like, I'm doing this thing. Like, I know I'm gonna do this thing. You ain't gonna stop me. I don't know, like, it's like I need to do this thing. I don't like. There's no other option.
Yeah, and I mean, in the final room, I'll wait for you to leave, but I'm still gonna do it.
Yeah. And then Diego just being like we sort of all look to him at various points to be like, dude, you gotta pull, you know, you gotta work that fucking brain of yours right now. And then him like, and then like Rico, you not just being like, oh yeah, here's the answer. but like role playing the answer, like that's fucking awesome. Like, you know what I mean? It was,
Joe.
Yeah. One thing sort of just that's to everybody, and it's kind of thing we've said a bit of sort of with the breakthroughs and different things, but the kind of like leadership being so spread around, like it was like a constant stream of moments of like, okay, who should be taking charge here, and but it wasn't like, oh god, we need somebody to be the leader. Like there's like a quick moment of that, but then it's always going to be somebody different. You know what I mean? So like I tend to like that. There's nothing really wrong with having like overlapping stuff with characters, but I do enjoy everybody having like a strength, you know what I mean? So that it's like, hey, if we need someone to spur things on, we've got Cooper. If we need or find stuff, right? If we need which direction should we go? Okay, Munch can take care of that. If we need smarts, we've got our Diego. You know, if we need someone to be kind of like almost the social leader of ourselves as a family, we've got Boulderbreast. You know what I mean? Yeah. So having that spread around everybody was really nice.
It's unique, I think. I don't think I've seen a table operate in quite such a manner before. In most of the other campaigns, there is somebody who is the sort of defunct go-to for, oh, I'll do the speaking to the NPC right now. Right. And the defunct go-to for, I'll lead the way through the dungeon. It was really nice to see it, as you say, be so diverse.
Yeah. A couple things specific about different people. Somehow, I don't know whether it was Boulderbreast or Jack more, but somehow the combination of Boulderbreast and Jack, and I say this as most of you know, like I am a crazy teetotaler. I don't drink or do drugs or anything like this, but somehow you made me enjoy a character learning to drink alcohol and enjoy it. And I the fact that didn't like annoy me was amazing. It was great. Because it was just played so wonderful. Like maybe it's just the Aussie accent. I don't know, but was great. What else did I thought? Oh, the fact that Cooper could fly, but only really slow.
Yeah, that was really good.
So it's always like, how does he fly here?
How much of a point we made of it?
The bane of my existence.
Movement speed really
no. You can only move 5 feet. Yeah.
Movement speed isn't actually that slow, especially when you can dash. But we really made a thing of that, didn't we?
Oh my god, it was awful.
I just spent the entire campaign basically going, you could have played a pigeon. Which you could. But you didn't. You played a duck.
Yeah.
I've been to Jack and Joe. I'll go to Rico.
Yeah, I mean, again, collectively as a group, I think we were awesome. The commitment to our characters, the commitment to role play, it's always enjoyable. You know, I mean, I played with James, Josh, and Joe obviously for a while in the past, but Jack just sort of fit in like very, very well and very easily, meshed in quite nicely. In terms of Jack's character, I really liked just sort of like this sensible, like he seemed like the most human in a sense of all of us, where he was like very careful, and like most of us wouldn't, run headstrong into a jungle full of fucking dangerous creatures. And I mean, I know that Boulderbreast was very weary of that in the first place, so that was cool. Definitely the accent is awesome. As the Westerner, or as one of the Westerners, like I don't know, our accent sucks, in my opinion. Like I always thought James and Josh sounded so fucking cool, and they're just using their regular voices. It's probably why I give my characters a voice other than mine. But yeah, it was awesome, and yeah, like this sort of. I felt like Boulder really held the group together, right? Like he was the reason that we stuck together. He was kind of like the group dad, keep holding the reins, and so to speak. Obviously, I love playing with Joe. He's great. He's got great voices. He has amazing insight. His ideas are fucking so cool. Munch was, easily evocative of that. What did I like Munch? I like Munch's accent as well. Hilarious. And what was funny was that
I even keep doing it, so I'm almost glad it's
and I don't think any of us knew, especially Joe, that Monk would end up being like the powerhouse of the group. and pumping out the most damage, right? And like that was really cool.
They are super powerful till level 6, and then you never see
exactly like right in the beginning, and a sort of like, I don't know if anyone noticed, but we almost had the classic D&D group of a fighter, a wizard, a rogue, and instead of a cleric, we had a monk. And so it sort of really felt like that classic trope. You know, the fighter was like this protector, and the rogue was this curious guy who's, you know, stealing stuff all the time, and the wizard was the smart one who was figuring out solutions to problems. And then Joe just like, I was like, where's Joe gonna fit in this? And it's just like perfect, you know, like the navigator. And yeah, it was so good, so good. And then for Josh, I don't know if this is so much a Cooper thing or a Josh thing, but like James said, Josh is always the person to make things interesting, right? Because otherwise we would have just been safe and not done the wrong thing, and it would have been a pretty boring session. So like Josh always knows how to like sort of coax that bit of excitement out, even though, I mean, much to the chagrin of everyone else, right? But or to the detriment of everyone else, or not the detriment, but the annoyance of everyone else in character. But like as a player, I love it. It's what makes turning up to sessions interesting.
Yeah, I love the fact that I can just go, oh, I'll just put that there. Somebody will jump into it, probably Josh. Yeah, I can always do that. I love that, and it's great.
I would love to, but as Diego, I would have never, right?
And I'm thoroughly looking forward to the fact that I think next campaign we have 2 people who are going to do that. This Jay is just as likely to randomly jump into the whirlpool to see what happens.
Nice.
Josh, what did you enjoy about these people's things?
Yeah, I mean, just to echo what everyone else really has said, I think the group dynamic was really, really solid. I think, you know, with Jack being new to the table, I don't think you would have known if you didn't. I think you fit in pretty seamlessly, and I really liked the party dynamic. You know, we were, even though we all like many a times disagreed on what to do or if we should have done something and stuff like that, we still kept very tightly together. We might have been like, oh, I don't know if we should steal that, but we have to keep together because all we have is each other. You know, we're surrounded by a bunch of people we don't know. We don't really know their language, and that was always really nice. But just one little personal thing, I really loved Munch in combat. Like, just the visual of this like nervous ticked squirrel bouncing from opponent to opponent, whacking them with an elemental bow staff. I was like, whatever video game this is, I would like to play it, please. I just want to quickly put that in.
But yeah, I mean, I think it's it was, I'm glad it was short in a way, but it was fun the whole way. It was a wild ride, from setting sail and navigating via nuts, to heading along the beaches and through the jungles and wondering whether it was our hut to rest in and our water to drink, to meeting the desert people and fighting off a dust devil, and just in general, becoming adventurers and going through a little dungeon tomb and chasing our way out of it. But that is where the Chronicles comes to an end. So if you guys would like to say Samas.
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 We shall see you soon.